Hello, this is Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. I'm Larry Rhodes.
And I'm Faithless Forrest, and we want you to know that if you don't believe in God, you're not alone. Right here in East Tennessee, you can find free-thinking atheists and agnostics. This is a show for them and for people interested in living a life free of supernatural beliefs.
And this is a call-in show. However, we only have one phone line, so if you can't get through, we invite your email to email questions into us live. The Atheist Society of Knoxville is a fun meetup group that meets often at a bar or eatery around Knoxville. We sometimes even do karaoke. Tonight's meetup is at Barley's Pizzeria in the Old City for happy hour for a food, drinking conversation after the show tonight. People are gathering there now, 5:30, I'm sure, or shortly.
And Friday?
And Friday. Friday we meet at Agave Azul's, which is in the Bearden area. Look for the silver-jacketed copy of The God Delusion standing upright on the table. And as Matt Dillahunty at the Atheist Experience out of Austin, Texas always says, everyone is welcome to visit our happy hour for food, drinking, conversations. But if you plan to preach, proselytize, provoke, or punch, please don't.
All right, the monthly activities of the Rationalists of East Tennessee. On the first and third Sunday mornings, we usually have lively lectures and roundtable discussions. The second Sunday is book club. February's book is Predictably Irrational, The Hidden Forces That Shape Our Decisions. The fourth Sunday is a reflections gathering, a potluck afternoon dinner or snack, bring your own, at a member's home.
Now, next week, we may be running late, or we may be preempted by the Knoxville government meetings. If we don't come on exactly at 5 o'clock and the government meeting seems to be winding down, then just hang around and we may just be starting late.
So otherwise, we may delay the start of the show.
We very well may, or we may end up being preempted. We don't know yet.
All right.
So visit our websites for additional monthly meetings, times, and locations.
All right, well, today's show is about what the Bible didn't say and should have.
Could have, should have. If we had a creator giving us the word of the truth about the universe, it would have been an entirely different document, I believe.
Quite a different book. All right. Well, let's talk about the news.
Okay, in the new year, we thought we would review the old and forecast the new.
You know, 2011 was the year Harold Camping predicted we would see the rapture and tribulation and the final destruction of the world. Harold, if you're listening, does the Bible have anything to say about failed prophets?
Why, Forrest? Yes, it does. From Zechariah 13:3, if a man still prophesies, and his parents, father and mother shall say to him, you shall not live, because you have spoken a lie in the name of the Lord. When he prophesies, his parents, father, and mother shall thrust him through.
Well, Harold, you better hide your swords and watch your family's back.
Right.
Watch your back when the family's around.
Right. For some time now, we've been hearing about the end of the Mayan calendar, and allegations that it predicts the end of the world. Behind us is the date of 21 December 2012, when their calendar reaches the end of reaches the rollover point. Like my old Mustang hitting 100,000 miles and rolling over to 0, 0, 0, 0. Or is that a million miles?
Yeah, it's 100,000.
Depends on the year of the car, I guess.
Yep. Well, people who want to sell you movie tickets make a great big deal out of the alignment of the sun with the plane of the galaxy at about the same time. Of course, this happens every year, not just years when the Mayan calendar happens to roll over.
Right.
It happened about 20 days ago, and well, Larry, did you notice the Earth even shaking or threatening to come to an end?
No, I thought I felt a tremor, but no, it was nothing. It may have been gas. Nope. I predict that despite the reset of the Mayan calendar on December 21st, 2012, that every other end of the world prediction, the world will keep turning on its action for billions of years on its axis. There will be good and evil in the world, and con men will try to take advantage of the credulous. That's what's happening now.
You know, I got to wonder why such weight is given to such predictions when, of course, the Mayan calendar didn't warn the Mayans about the arrival of Europeans so that they could better prepare for what would come with such contact. I mean, in a way, that was kind of the end of their civilization as they knew it.
Pretty important. You think that if they were in the business of making predictions, they would have at least made that one.
Yeah.
You want to make some predictions for us?
Well, sure. If you go out in the evening, just after sunset, and look to the west, you will see a bright white point of light in the sky. This is the planet Venus. It orbits closer to the sun than we are and is gradually overtaking the Earth. This summer, the planet Venus will pass in front of the sun on June 5th and 6th, depending upon where you are on the Earth. This is a rare event, and no adult alive now will see the next one in 2117. So don't miss it. The best place to see this once-in-a-lifetime event does happen to be in Alaska, Hawaii, or Tahiti.
I don't know. I plan to be around.
All right. I wish you luck on that.
Modern medicine. The best place to see this is Alaska, Hawaii, or Tahiti. This would be a good time to mention to keep safety first when trying to view this event. You need to properly use appropriately rated solar filters for observing the sun, or use a solar projection method such as a pinhole camera. Now, this is the time to build one and practice observing the sun.
And in fact, the sun is nearing solar maximum, so there'll be sunspots as well to observe, and so that's a good reason to practice as well.
I had an interesting event one time when there was a partial eclipse outside, and I was visiting my mother in the hospital at the time, and I happened to be standing next to some blinds, and there was there's holes on either side of the blinds.
Okay,
and I looked down, and there was a whole series of semi-lunar solar eclipses on
little crescents,
right on the floor.
In fact, you can do the same thing if you take your hands and make a grid, and then let the sun shine through. You get this little grid of a little crescent. They look kind of like crescent moons, only they're actually an image of the sun.
Sure. This image shows how in the following shows, we hope to better explain how to observe this astronomically, but pinhole cameras work just fine. It's not an earth-shaking event, but it certainly is interesting.
All right, and the image behind us, let's explain that. In the yellow region there that covers North America above my head, this is the region where people will see the start of the transit, but it will not have finished before the sun sets. People over in Europe and Eastern Africa, Western Asia, they will see the start of the transit. They'll see it in progress, and then it will set.
The sun will set.
And then up in the green area there, so if you go up to like Alaska, well, we all know that near the summer solstice, the North Pole is in continuous light, and in fact on the
in the summer solstice, yes.
Yeah, and on the summer solstice, all the way down to the Arctic Circle is in continuous light. And so this is only 2 weeks or so before that. All right. Okay. Well, that's our predictions. We invite you to hold us to them. All right. So, Larry, what didn't the Bible say that it should have?
Well, let's remind the viewers that this is a call-in show and that we are taking calls on the number of the screen. There's a 7-second delay if you do call in to our broadcast, so please mute your television and listen to us over the phone, or we'll all be confused. If you're going to quote the Bible to us, we would appreciate you get your Bible inside chapter and verse.
And I brought my Gideon.
Right. But on with the show. What the Bible should have said, or could have said. If the Bible really were the inspired word of an omniscient God who loves us and wanted the best for us, would it really have been filled with dictates and commandments? Wouldn't you rather have expected that he would have taken the time to calmly explain the workings of the world and the universe, and then given you reasons to do the things that you would actually be a benefit to the to the future of humanity?
Right. Instead of sounding like it was written by a desert war chief with a micromanagement complex, the Bible might have sounded more like this. Yea, though the earth seemeth steady and flat, yet it is a globe which doth turn fully round once daily. Look to the North Star to witness the hub of this turning extended. The sun is just another star, only much, much closer to you than are the other stars. This earth is a sphere, and it travels round the sun, just as the moon circles the earth. The earth, moon, planets, and stars are all thousands of millions of years old.
And shout out to Dale for sending that in. Right. It would have just taken him a few seconds, a few sentences to lay out the foundation of modern astronomy. Instead, many a good men like Galileo and Copernicus were persecuted as heretics by the church, and Giordano Bruno was put to death for the blasphemy of suggesting that the earth revolves around the sun. And this was done by the very people who supposedly had God whispering truths into their ears.
As Robert Ingersoll said, it was bad for the truth when it was discovered, but even worse for the discoverers because the church would persecute them.
So true.
Well, the Bible could have said, explore the earth. Have no fear of falling off it, as it is round, and everything on it is pulled towards its center by a force of nature that I will call gravity. Yea, it is the same force that holds the plate upon the table, or that
Bible.
Gideon on the table. Travel and experiment and record your results so that you may build a body of knowledge of the world that will benefit those who follow. Traveling south will reveal stars unknown to you in your native lands. All right.
Okay, the Bible.
Well, and it's an amazing thing to think about that, travelers, when the Bible was written, a lot of it was sort of codified around 600 BC or so, and that was around the time the Greeks actually began to do this. Mm-hmm. And by around 500 BC, the Greeks knew the Earth was round. Mm-hmm. They had made measurements, and I think at least by 300 BC, they had an accurate estimate of the size.
Wasn't it Aristarchus that accurately measured the circumference of the Earth?
I always fear trying to say his name out loud.
And he knew that the Earth was curved, not like circular like a plate, so he knew it was a sphere. Yep. And this was well before the Bible was actually written, or about the same time.
Well, before the New Testament.
New Testament.
The Old Testament is something that's been merged together out of writings, some of which will predate it.
But the God of the universe should have known all this and been able to easily tell the people who are writing the Bible.
You would think he would, and it's not fair to say, oh well, God had to talk down to them because they wouldn't have understood it. I mean, isn't that really underestimating your deity if he can't tell you how things work
in such a way for you to understand it?
And yet the Greeks were finding it out for themselves. I mean, obviously, it was something that was accessible to people in antiquity.
The Bible also could have said, deep in the soil may be found the signs of beasts which lived long ago and exist no longer. The patient earth has turned their bones to rock. Indeed, the very history of the earth may be learned by examining deeply within it. By searching there, you will witness how plants and animals have changed over many generations. Right there, he could have given us the basics of an understanding of evolution. Even if he didn't give us all the facts, he could have shown us where to start looking and how to begin to understand what we found.
Well, the Bible could have said that there are many lands and peoples on the earth that differ greatly from you. Treat them with kindness and do not consider them beneath you simply because they are strange to you, for they are my children too. Thou shalt not keep another human being as property. It is as wrong as murder, for it steals the life from its true owner. Abolish slavery wherever you may find it. With these few short sentences, he could have saved thousands, if not millions of lives from brutality, hardship, family separation, and death. But the God of the Bible actually endorsed slavery, telling his people whom to enslave, how much to charge for selling your daughter into slavery, and even how to mark them as slaves.
It's true. The Bible could also have told us that the land thou livest on is thine by agreement with other people. I do not assign any land to thee. If thou kill a people and take their land from them, thou art guilty of murder and theft, not righteousness. With these sentences, he could have saved the world countless and endless wars over holy lands. The Middle East could have been a region of peaceful coexistence instead of an area of continuous war as it is today. But the God of the Bible, in his role as a real estate agent, tells his flock to slaughter whole populations, to take their lands from them and live on them.
All right, my goodness. I would like to remind viewers that the subject of today's show is what the Bible should have said, and we'd like to ask viewers to call in with their ideas of how the Bible could have been improved, what you think, some parts that should have been left out. All right, well, so on with that. The Bible could have said, witches and sorcerers do not exist. No person has magical power over the natural world. Only your God has such power. How many lives would this sentence have saved? How many people have been tortured, maimed, and killed on the pronouncement of their neighbor that they were a witch? Instead, the Bible positively tells people that witches exist and commands them to kill them when you find them out. Right here in it was the colonial United States at the time, we had people put to death over actually denying that they were witches. Think about that. By telling the truth, they sentenced themselves to death.
That was a long time ago here. It is still going on in many places in Africa today. Some villages are pronouncing some of their people witches and either killing them and throwing them out of their village. And some of these villages, the people doing it are Christians, because it says in the Bible, witches exist, do not suffer them to live.
Yeah, I remember a story about he's like a 7-year-old boy who I think died from some accusation of witchcraft. I don't forget if they were trying to drive the demons out of him, or I think that was it. They were trying to drive demons out of him.
There are still churches in America that pronounce people witches. They don't kill them, of course. They know if they killed them in today's America, they would be persecuted to the full extent of the law. Prosecuted, to the full extent of the law, so they refrain from it. However, in the days when the church had full power, they did not refrain from it.
Yeah, it's important that the church has not given up power willingly. It has to be wrestled from their grasp.
Right.
And they complain bitterly over their inability to practice barbarism as it's forced from them.
Right.
What else could the Bible
Well, there's
say?
never been any proof or a demonstration that demons or any kind of supernatural entities exist. God could have told us in the Bible, there are no demons. These humans who are afflicted in their mind are sick, naturally sick, and are not to be feared, other than from the harm that they may do naturally. How many people have been put to death because they were deemed to be possessed by demons? Even today, in modern American society, people are being hurt, and in some cases killed, in the process of exorcism. The Catholic Church itself, supposedly an enlightened religious entity, routinely performs exorcisms, and indeed employs specialists in it.
I was shocked to hear that the church government still was doing that. I guess I would have thought that they would have realized that people like me are going to want to just laugh at them. I mean, it just seems to beg for ridicule that they're running around thinking that they can drive demons out.
Well, it's even worse than that, because in some churches in America today, they don't just lay hands on you and try to drive out the demons. I read a story recently where they had wrapped this boy in a blanket, laid him on there, and then everybody laid on him, and he expired due to suffocation. He couldn't breathe. This is the real problem with exorcism. There's a lot of mental abuse and psychological damage that can be done when you tell somebody, especially a child, that they're possessed of a demon. And then you work for hours to get it out of them. Can you imagine how that would scar a small child?
Yeah, it's horrific.
But he could have, if God had been real, he could have told us that there were no such thing as demons.
A better Bible would have. All right, well, a better Bible could have said, all human beings are my children, no matter what sex, color, or how they choose to acknowledge me, or indeed if they choose to acknowledge me or not. I am a perfect being, and therefore I do not care for adoration or worship. All people, men and women, must be given equality under the law. with one word from God, he could have established the equality of the sexes and outlawed racism.
The Bible could have said, when you receive a wound or cut, pour distilled alcohol into it, else it fester or spoil due to extremely small plants and animals, which I will call germs infecting it. These germs are indeed so tiny that they cannot be seen even by the sharpest eye, but their effects on flesh and food are terrible. To kill these germs, wash thyself regularly, hand and face most often. Care for thy sick. Physicians, wash your hands after seeing each patient, lest the germs from one patient be carried to the next. With a few simple statements like this, God could have laid the groundwork for us to understand the germ theory of disease. Just in the Civil War alone, think of the number of people who could have been spared excruciating pain and suffering if the surgeon had simply washed his hands between patients, between surgeries. Hundreds of thousands could have been saved in that one instance.
You know, I've read the Bible, Larry, and it's remarkable that within it there is so many missed opportunities along these lines. Mm-hmm. The closest thing you can find to something that might be a recommendation of hygiene happens somewhere in the Pentateuch, where the Israelis are wandering in the desert, and there's this casual reference that if you need to defecate, you're supposed to go outside the camp and bury, at least God be offended if he should be strolling by. Mm-hmm. Nothing to really, stress the importance, it's, that it's a disease problem. It's not this, well, God shall be offended kind of thing.
The priests don't want to see it, basically, or smell it.
Yeah. Well, the Bible could have said, before eating, be sure to clean your hands and eating tools thoroughly, lest these germs find their way into your body by your food and cause disease. By slow and steady cooking, food and water may be made safe from these tiny parasites which dwell therein. Milk, too, may be made safe in this way. 7 times 70 beats of your heart are sufficient in duration for boiling be effective. Thou canst eat pork whenever thou likest, just cook it well first. Moreover, thou shalt cook all thy meat and fish well, until thou mayest develop deep understanding of germs and parasites. God could have given us the basis for proper nutrition. Instead, he forbade the ingestion of pork, shrimp, and lobster. How many people have had to suffer and die of malnutrition when a ready food supply was nearby? There is another comment to be made about hygiene in the New Testament. In the New Testament, there's this story where Jesus comes to eat dinner with, it might be the Pharisees, and they reproach him for not washing his hands. And he kind of brags about how he can break the rules. Imagine, there's got to be people that's hurt.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure.
So, I'm with the Pharisees, or however that's pronounced.
Pharisees. Mm-hmm.
Yep, wash your hands, folks.
Yep. The Bible could have said, I will not curse thee with diseases, for I love thee. Diseases are caused by germs and malnutrition and can be fought with herbs and renderings from some plants. Physicians experiment with these things to find effective cures. I will not send flood or storm against thee, for I love thee. These are caused by the natural heating and cooling of the earth's airs, not by your loving God. How many shamans and moms and preachers have ascribed diseases and other natural events to gods in order to ensure obedience to their dictates, and is still doing it today? Aren't you, Pat Robertson? How many virgins were sacrificed at the hands of some witch doctor because people were afraid that God would do something to their people if the sacrifice were not made? You remember Pat Robertson saying that the Katrina was God's punishment for homosexuality?
Yeah.
If he were writing the Bible today, if we had to depend on him to write the Bible, how many atrocities would he lay at the feet of God? These people did the same thing. They didn't understand what was happening, but they attributed it to God and made him, the scapegoat for all of this stuff.
Well, scapegoat somehow seems the wrong term. It's like their idea of a God is, well, he's like a neighbor you wouldn't want. If Pat Robertson's God lived on your block, when you told your kids to play, you'd tell them to play on the other side of the street rather than on your side where Pat Robertson's God is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, callers, we're getting close to the halfway point of the show. We would really like you to call in and tell us how the Bible could be improved, either by addition or there's plenty of things that could be left out of it.
I'm sure some people have some comments about some of the things we said, and we have more to come after the break.
All right. Well, let's jump in and talk about, in case you're just tuning in, this is the Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. Freethought Forum is funded jointly by them and by individual contributions. Shows are live most every Tuesday from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Community Access Television. We can also be seen streaming live online. For fans outside the Knoxville area, go to ctvknox.org.
You can send us feedback on the email address on your screen, freethoughtforum@yahoo.com. I don't see it on the screen, but
it'll get up there.
Yeah, freethoughtforum@yahoo.com. But don't wait, this is the call-in show, and we are live today, December 6, 2011. And viewers can call in now on the number of the screen.
Well, I think that was last week's prompt. This is December 10th today here. Mm-hmm. That doesn't add up, though.
No. It's the 10th, though.
Okay. And we should mention that although most shows are from 5 to 6, next week may be an exception. There is potentially a county meeting, government meeting, which may delay or preempt us. All right? Let's see. The Atheist Society of Knoxville, or ASK, meets several times during the week. We have evening meetups for fun, food, and drink. ASK's purpose is to supply a venue for community, camaraderie, and outreach to atheists, agnostics, freethinkers, and other like-minded persons in the East Tennessee area. Visit the ASK website on the screen to learn more about us.
Mm-hmm. The Rationalists of East Tennessee has Sunday activities involving lively presentations and discussions of subjects topical and timeless, such as the influence of money in politics. Was Jesus a real person? The history of life, the four horsemen of the atheism. Can you name them?
Hitchens.
Dawkins. Harris.
Dennett?
Dennett.
Mm-hmm. All right, yeah. Well, someone's going to have to be promoted with the recent passing of Hitchens.
That's true. I'd go for Dan Barker.
Okay. Sam Harris, where does he fit in there?
He's one of them.
Okay, did we already say that? I missed
Harris.
All right. Well, once a month we get together for book club. Future books include Predictably Irrational, Muzzled, The Assault on Honest Debate, The Fair Society, and The Invisible Gorilla. You need not have read the books to attend, but of course it helps. We meet at the Barnes & Noble near Westtown Mall. I forget the name of the shopping center. It's across the street and slightly west. And that's from 4 to 6 p.m. on Sunday, and it's the second Sunday of most months.
Okay. Both the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee help support a social outlet, or helps provide one, where you'll find that if you don't believe in God, you're not alone, even here in East Tennessee.
Even here. All right. Well, okay. Let's see. We're discussing what the Bible could have said, and it looks like we've got, I'm up next here.
Okay.
The Bible could have said, stop mutilating your genitals, especially those of thy helpless babes and children. This is disrespectful, harmful, and can cause germs to enter the body by these cuts. How many children have died as a result of these practices? And why would an all-powerful, omniscient God give a darn about who has a tiny piece of flesh from their body and who doesn't?
Right. Doesn't make any sense. The Bible could have said, afford to each other those rights which you would have for yourself. Do not kill or harm others as you would not want to be killed or harmed yourself. All life on Earth is related to you in the most profound way. Treat the planet with the greatest respect, for it sustains you, and it will be a very long time, if ever, that you will ever find another one like it. As your population grows in the millennia that follow, you must develop the skills needed to find and move to other Earths. Do this as quickly as you are able, for your planet is fragile and is exposed to many dangers.
All right. Well, I like how that started out with a paraphrasing of the Golden Rule.
Which goes all the way back to Confucius and beyond.
And potentially beyond. And then I like how it says all life is related to you in the most profound way. One of the things that I like about Neil deGrasse Tyson is a lovely phrase he developed, that we are all related to one another biologically. We are related to the rest of other living creatures that same way, and that the biology is chemistry. We are related to the inanimate world through the atoms of which we are made.
The rest of the universe.
And the rest of the universe, which synthesize the complex soup of atoms out of which we are made.
Right.
We are, as they say, Carl Sagan, star stuff.
Literally.
All right. Well, right, Larry, with these lines, God could have laid the groundwork for a respect for all life, not just the selected humans in his chosen people. And he would have given us a warning, nay, a dictate, to begin the preparation to move off the earth. He would have known that the population of the earth would rapidly reach critical mass, and that with that much warning, and without the church fighting science at every opportunity, we might actually have reached other planets in the millennia since the Bible was written.
I like the saying that if it weren't for the Dark Ages, which basically was when religion ruled the world and did not allow science progress, it says if it weren't for the Dark Ages, or if it weren't for religion, Columbus could have landed on the moon.
Not merely North America.
Right.
All right.
The Bible could have said, treat all people, indeed all life, with kindness, compassion, and respect, for I made you in my image, whole and unspoiled, and you will be judged for your actions, not for your ability to believe the unbelievable. No matter how much religious people claim that being good is the basis for reaching heaven, the actual criteria laid out in the Bible is belief, i.e. the Tinkerbell effect. Believe in Jesus, accept him as your Savior, and bang, you're in like Flint. Doing bad stuff? No problem. You're forgiven. Just believe.
Yeah, I must say that is the strongest criticism I have of the New Testament, is that, and it's contradictory on this, there's a place where it says that you've got to do good works as well, and then there are places where it clearly says that works will not save you.
Right.
And that faith does. And that I'm afraid is a get out of jail card free to the undeserving.
You know, that Jeffrey Dahmer was saved on death row and is now in heaven, where all the Jews that Hitler killed are now in hell because they didn't accept Jesus as the...
if the Bible be true.
If the Bible be true and Christianity true.
All right. But a good Bible could have said, I do not appoint leaders, and no priest or shaman knows my secret. Do not humble yourselves to those who claim knowledge of me. With these lines, God could have ended the practice of charlatans taking money from the old, the infirm, and indeed from anybody in the name of God, Jehovah. And once again, I can't remember the deity of Islam. Allah. Thanks, first time on air I've remembered it.
True. He could have put an end to the charlatans taking money in his name, and as well as representing him every way around the world. The Bible could have also have said, or should have said, and finally, since the information herein is so extremely important, I will make this book indestructible and available to every person on the planet free and in their language, and will simultaneously update all copies from time to time. It is well within my power to do so. I will not allow it to be misinterpreted and misrepresented.
Wow, I would say amen to that. You know, my goodness, how many times have we heard someone say you're misrepresenting the Bible, or that's a bad translation, or that part doesn't count anymore? Man, I get so tired of hearing that. I would have to say to anyone who says that the evil passages we cite in here and condemn, that somehow we're misrepresenting it, that, well, you know, that's got to mean one of two things. Either that this Bible has been poorly translated. Well, maybe I should say it this way.
Poorly written, poorly translated, misrepresented.
And that there can be, therefore, no proper English version of the Bible. If we can't trust it, it means it's not an English Bible.
Right.
All right. Well, we're running a little low here. Okay. I've got one more paragraph.
Right. Another paragraph, yeah.
You know, that last paragraph would put an end to holy wars and atheism. There would be ample proof of the existence and presence of a powerful and almighty being.
That would.
And the Bible could have ended with, now go forth and help prepare each new generation to be healthier, kinder, wiser, and more knowledgeable than the last, with infinite love, signed God.
In other words, be excellent to each other. Yeah. It would be a good book that actually does reflect the omnibenevolent being, not a megalomaniac as depicted in the Judeo-Christian Islamic Bibles.
All right, well, I'm sure you could think of dozens of additional things that should have been added to the Bible, knowing what we now know about the natural world around us and what a supposedly omniscient, loving God could have told us.
Now compare that to what we've just read to you, to the many barbaric laws and commandments found in the Christian Bible and the Islamic Bible and the others, especially those found in Deuteronomy and Leviticus, or indeed the teachings of any other holy book.
Okay. Well, one thing that I wish the Bible had done was taught atomic theory. The Bible could have said that, you know, the earth on which you stand, the water that you drink, the air in the apparent empty space around you is made of tiny particles that are, for the most part, something like indestructible, that they combine to make the different materials around us, and that this combination follows nice rules, in particular like integers, like counting numbers. And from these rules, and we've got our first call, Larry. Why don't you greet our caller?
Welcome to Freethought Forum. May we have a name or a nickname?
Yeah, it's Mike.
Hello, Mike. Welcome to Freethought Forum. Do you have a comment or question?
Yeah, just a short question. I'm curious what you guys think about the Jefferson Bible, where he took out all of the stuff that he thought was supernatural. And I'll hang up and listen to your voice.
Oh, don't go yet. We might have a few questions for you. We want to make sure we understand your question. I've never read the Jefferson Bible because I've never been able to get in the physical presence of one.
The thing that strikes me about it is that he did what I would have done. The Old Testament is full of really bad advice. It's outdated. It's got good stories, and we could even include those in a different book and label it Fantasized History of the Jewish People, something like that. The New Testament, if you want to say that you're a Christian and you follow the teachings of Christ, it has nothing to do with miracles. You don't need miracles, which is exactly what Thomas Jefferson did. He took out the miracles. He didn't believe in supernatural beings. He didn't believe in miracles and demons, things like that. So he took out all that stuff and left the teachings of Jesus. And I think that if you want to be a Christian and call yourself a follower of Jesus, you should follow the Jeffersonian Bible and not the Holy Bible.
And for the benefit of the viewers, what I've done here, in my right hand here, this is the Old Testament. So Jefferson would have tossed all of this. Now this part is the New Testament. And Mike, have you actually read the Jefferson Bible? Do you have a copy?
No, I don't, but I have read pieces of it. I don't have a copy itself.
Yeah, one of the things I speculate, and this is only speculation on my part, is that he's even got to have cut out some of what Jesus is alleged to have said, because there are a few things that Jesus is alleged to have said that I suspect the moral Jefferson would not have left in there. In particular, that you must hate your parents in order to enter the kingdom of God.
And he didn't treat his mother very well, that type of thing. But yeah, and forsaking all of your possessions and giving no thought to tomorrow, things like that. Not really good advice, but I can understand where people would say, yeah, I can understand. It's a parable. Don't put all of your efforts into accumulating material wealth, things like that. I mean, you can preserve the essence of it without reading it word for word and taking it as literally word for word teachings. But yes, I think it's worth keeping for that.
Well, Mike, when I first heard about the Jefferson Bible, it was in the context of something that I've never heard confirmed. It was alleged that all new members of Congress, once upon a time, were given a copy of the Jefferson Bible, and that, it was meant to try to maybe blunt some of the Old Testament literalism that occasionally rears its head in public life. How did you first learn about the Jefferson Bible?
I'm not sure that that's true. I don't think it was published very widely. I think it was minimally published, as a matter of fact, and not very much until after Jefferson died.
And the context in which I heard it, I think is one of these emails that you get sent around. And as I read it, I thought that sounds a little like urban legend, but that is the first place in which I'd heard of the Jefferson Bible. So you don't remember how you first heard?
Nope.
I'm sorry?
I said perhaps you can go on Snopes.
Oh,
yeah. Well, I've visited that place, been there, but I never thought to go and check this one. Larry, how'd you hear about the Jefferson Bible first?
Just in my readings. I think it was Christopher Hitchens. He was a biographer for Jefferson, and he could have mentioned it in passing. But it's been a long time since I've known about it.
Okay.
Heard about it.
Well, Mike, is this the first time you've watched our show, or have you watched previously?
No, I've watched a lot, but this is the first time I've called in.
Okay.
Well, thank you for calling. We kind of need some more viewers to help us with today's topic.
Yep.
Let's say goodbye to Mike and encourage other people to give us a call.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Viewers, today we've been talking about what the Bible should have said. If you've got some ideas about how to improve the Bible, what could be added or what could be removed, or as I'm fond of saying, let's amend the Bible.
Yeah, I do have a video. This whole topic came from a video that I put on YouTube called What the Bible Should Have Said. My username is Doubter5, and you can go on there and watch it and copy it or save it, whatever. Email that link around. But in the meantime, that was the basis for this whole program.
All right. Well, when I think about the Bible and things that I would like to would like left off, I would like to actually compare and contrast it to our national Constitution as amended.
Mm-hmm.
Before it was amended, our Constitution, like the Bible, allowed slavery. Mm-hmm. But the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments put an end to that.
Okay, sexism too, because women didn't have the vote.
All right. Hello, welcome to Freethought Forum. Please give us a name or a nickname and a short question or comment.
Hi, this is Mary.
Hello, Mary.
Hello, Mary.
Hi.
Great. Give us a question or comment, and please listen to the telephone, not to your
TV.
Television.
There's a lag.
Because of the delay. Listen to your phone. Give us a short comment or question, please.
Sure. Well, I had a question about something you said earlier in the show.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, you mentioned to Mike, who called in, that some part of the Bible said you have to hate your parents.
Jesus. Do you want to talk about that?
Right. Can you tell me what part of the Bible? Because I'd like to look that up.
Sure.
It's in one of the four Gospels, but I'm not fluent in them. I
can paraphrase it for you while he's looking it up.
Yeah.
It says, if you want to be one of my followers, you must first come to hate your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, and turn unto me. And that's what a lot of the preachers, a lot of Christian churches are teaching you. If your family doesn't support you, move to Christianity, let them go. Okay. And do you have the passage?
Yeah, I do. It's in Luke. It would appear to be chapter 14, verse 26. And Mary, do you have a Bible as well?
I do. Not on me right now, though. I was just watching the show, so I got interested in that part.
Okay, well, I'm working with a Gideon Bible, which I believe is related to a King James version, but the grammar has been modernized. But here I go, starting at verse 26. If anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. And whoever does not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. All right. So, what he's trying to say here is that the relationship that you have with the imaginary, the supernatural, is more important than your own family. That section in Luke is profoundly anti-family values.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there are many people they're listening to this show, they may call in after you hang up, that will tell us that they had to leave their family because their family wanted to be Christian, and they didn't support or didn't buy into the belief system, and the family threw them out or wouldn't talk to them anymore or cut them off. This is not something that's esoteric and just out there hanging in the air. It never gets into practice. This gets into practice all the time.
This affects people's lives today. Those words can hurt people
right. There are
today.
people in our societies, the Atheist Society of Knoxville and RET,
well,
who
I think that's really
that.
interesting, the human mind. You can interpret things different ways. The way I would see this is that if you don't put yourself, if you don't put God before everything.
Right. Well, we think that's a problem.
Yeah.
There's no way to prove that God even is real.
Person, which is idolizing. So if you put someone else before God, that's just.
Well, that would be fine if you could show us God.
Yeah. You see, Mary, we don't think there is a God. We don't think that Zeus exists. Do you think Zeus exists?
Or Mercury, or Ma'at, or any of the thousands of gods that people have invented over the course of history?
So if you think about how you're likely to feel about Zeus, we feel that way about Elohim, Jehovah, Yahweh, the God of Abraham.
How can there be atheists if God is self-evident?
Yeah. So do you follow the problem we have? That you can't, we just don't think it's moral to put Zeus ahead of your children. Mary, do you have children?
I do have 2 girls, and I'm actually Greek, so I am familiar with Greek mythology.
Okay.
And, there are many churches, and each person, all throughout humanity, it's kind of interesting to see that since many ages ago, humans have always felt that there is something out there larger than them. So you're saying that you two or any other atheists now know for a fact there is no God?
No, we're not saying there is no God. We are saying we don't believe in one.
Out there, larger.
Did you hear what I said?
Yeah,
ma'am?
Mary, let Larry answer your question. Okay. Say again, Larry.
Ma'am, we don't say there is no God. We say we don't believe in one. Theism stands for belief. A theist believes in God, an atheist doesn't believe in God. There may be one out there. I will be right up front and say there could be a God. I don't believe in it.
I would appreciate, though, because you're expecting others to respect your belief.
No?
Which,
yes.
You're stating, as a matter of fact, on your show, you're stating, as a matter of fact, these things that you're saying, and yet at the same time, you're taking a lot of the things out of context. You're not reading the whole Bible, you're just taking a line out and not reading the meaning and the definition of what it's supposed to mean.
Sure, Mary. Let me grab that a little bit. What I can say is that, from my point of view, I can be pretty certain that Zeus does not exist, that he's just a story.
Well, we're not talking about Zeus, though. We're talking about God.
And I feel the same way about Jehovah, Yahweh, Elohim. My name is Lord. Those are all names given in this book to the God of Abraham. He is just as imaginary. I can know that because this book tells us a story about an alleged creation of the earth that is at odds with the facts as humans have learned and discovered them. So this book was obviously written by just people who told stories just like Zeus. And the problem is this book will tell you to hate your parents. Why does this book tell you to hate your parents?
Not telling me to hate my parents. That's your perspective.
It's what that says.
But Mary,
can you pull out your Bible?
Yeah, I read that sentence, but tell me, in what context can we put that sentence so that it is not a terrible thing to say, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, wife and children,
the Bible
he cannot be my disciple.
In English as we use it today, this is a translation. And the interpretation, if you want to take some of the words literally, then go ahead.
And Mary,
the whole context, the whole definition, the way it's some of the words are not meant literally go hate your parents.
Have you read the Bible?
Have you read all of it?
I have read the Bible.
All of it.
You read Leviticus and Deuteronomy and
Catholic school, and I've had to read the Bible.
And you still think it's a good book?
Well, Mary,
it is a very interesting book. It gives you morals. It gives you an understanding of human nature.
It gives you dictates. It does not give you morals.
Mary?
Yes, it does have a good... Why don't you point out the good things about the Bible? Why are you being negative?
Because Mary,
sitting there,
the mythology from ancient Greece can...
Mary, we don't have a hold button. We'll have to cut you off.
Mary, the mythology...
Well, thank you so much. Have a great day.
All right, yeah. Thank you, Mary. We want to mention that the mythology of ancient Greece also will have some good stories and some good points to it. The problem with the Bible is that if it's claimed to be the Word of God and that it's inerrant, there is nothing in it that's wrong, then the horrible things that are in it, some people will apply. You know, we realize there are some good things that come from the Bible because it was written by people, and many people feel goodwill towards their fellow human being. And Mary, we thank you for calling in because we're certain that you are a better mother than what Jesus tells his disciples to be as a parent. Right.
And another thing about the Bible is, since it is dogma, it is unchanging. You cannot change it. The Bible ends with, anybody who adds or takes away from this Bible will be damned, or I can't remember the last word.
It's a command. Thou shalt not add nor remove from the word.
So you don't have a choice. You've got to either support the terrible things in this Bible or throw it out. And since you're not about to throw it out, you're going to support it.
Because it comes in a package between these two covers.
It needs to be revisited, revised, and edited, and nobody will undertake that. And if they did, most religious people wouldn't go to that Bible anyway. Look at the Jeffersonian Bible. It's a speck in history.
And it's not. Although it's probably an improvement over this one, it hasn't replaced it.
Right.
We got about 7 minutes left. I sure wish someone who has any other versions of the Bible might tell us about how Luke chapter 14, verse 26 might be rendered in alternate versions, and how can it possibly be put into a context where it's not a terrible family value. Mm-hmm. Another favorite verse I like to pick on comes out of Leviticus. I think it's chapter 25, and it's verse. Oh well, I'm going to blow it. It's the one regarding slavery. Well, okay.
Well, paraphrase.
It says this is Moses giving law to the Jews that the strangers who sojourn amongst them, of them and their children they may buy and sell, and that these bought and sold children are an inheritance that they can pass on, for they are their property. You know, that right there, here in the Holy Book, was certainly used to justify slavery here in the United States. And as I think I was saying before we got our first call, that our national Constitution, as amended, is now morally a superior document to this book, because this book has not been amended.
Right. And how many times, I mean, how many times have you talked to a Christian or a believer of any religion that's based on that show them something wrong in the Bible, something bad in the Bible, something terrible, and they say, it doesn't say that. You show it to them.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that. Well, it's not out of context. Well, then here's an apologist who will spend three chapters in a book.
We got another call.
Explaining it away.
Hello, welcome to Freethought Forum. Please give us a name or a nickname.
This is Ken.
Thank you for calling, Ken.
Just referencing what you were just saying about slavery, a lot of people will say that the New Testament is different, and the New Testament, in terms of slavery itself, only mentions that slaves, be good to your masters, especially if you're Christians, and don't beat your slaves so hard that they lose an eye or a teeth.
Or die within 3 days.
Not really a value that helped end slavery.
Right, right. And how many preachers from the pulpit in the South, south of the Mason-Dixon line, were standing for 4 years in front of their congregation preaching from that book, that Bible is God condoned, and that we need, the Bible, slavery is condoned by God, and we need to keep it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a real good source for people who are trying to do away with slavery.
This is true.
Yeah, I don't know my way around the New Testament. I've not read as much criticism of it. I've read the whole Bible once. It's a tough thing to read. The Old Testament is far easier to pick on. I actually have here in Leviticus chapter 25, it starts at verse 44. And as for your male and female slaves, whom you may have from the nations that are around you, and from them you may buy male and female slaves. So right there, it uses the word slave. Mm-hmm. It is interesting that our nation's constitution used a rather curious, I think the term is circumelocution, to avoid using the word slave. They would talk about people who have a debt of servitude, and there's another phrase that escapes me. But you could tell there were people at the framing convention who were ashamed of the institution, didn't want that word to disgrace the document they were creating, and even if they couldn't convince the southern states to give up the practice, they didn't want that word in our nation's founding document.
Well, other translations of the Bible will use the word bondsman or bondsmaid.
Indentured servitude.
As far as slavery, I've made this point before on the show. In Exodus 20 or 21 or something, it says you can sell your daughter as long as you sell her to a fellow Jew.
And how much to charge for her.
Yeah, it doesn't say if you need to adjust that for inflation or not. I've often wondered what the price, is it 20 shekels?
I don't know.
Yeah, what would be the are you supposed to adjust for inflation? Have women become more valuable with time or not? Have daughters become more valuable? Ken, may we ask, have you watched the show previously?
Oh, yes. I call in every so often.
Have you visited Ask or RET?
No, I haven't, but I think I might. I hang out with a lot of very deeply religious people, so I'm not really able to talk freely about what I believe.
Which is another problem with religion.
We understand that, yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. How did you first find the show? Did someone recommend it to you, or did you just stumble into us?
No, I was just channel surfing one day, and I just said, thank God. Excuse me.
Well, excused.
Yeah, I often like to say, if I have to, I say thank Zeus, and that gets that point
or
across.
Or just thank goodness. That'll work.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, well, thank you for your call. Did you have any other question or comment before we let you go? We got about a minute left.
Give us...
good. Thanks for the show.
Okay, thank you.
You have a good day.
Bye.
All right. Well, we've had some nice callers today. We don't have a whole lot of closing material here.
Yeah, we did get through a lot of material today. That was good.
And it's time to start wrapping things out. Get out a pen and a paper.
Okay. This has been a Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee.
Please send us feedback. You can leave voicemail at 865-272-9060 or email us at freethoughtforum@yahoo.com.
And you can see this shows on Tuesdays from 5 o'clock to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Knoxville station, or at 222.
It's 2200 Universal
time. Okay.
Yep. So for people in Europe or Asia, that's your time.
If you want to watch it streaming online, you can see it at ctvknox.org.
We would like to thank Jonas and Sam for technical support, and all the staff at CTV and our